pack up the family. He's like, hey kids, we're going to see Octopussy.
This is one that didn't get shown on TV as much, and I feel like it's because of the title. You can have a character named Pussy in your movie, but when it's like right there in the title, you know, when you got that intro, because this is like 1983, I guess, and then there was like one more Roger Moore, right? Was A View to a Kill after this? And then that was it for Roger Moore.
He did 7 Bonds.
Yeah, so I think this might be the next to last, and then Sean Connery does
simultaneously. What was that one? It was the
Never Say
Never Say Again.
I was getting it confused with, because I was like, oh yeah, isn't there like a scene where Roger Moore's playing a video game with playing like a video game with Kim Basinger? I'm like, oh no, that's Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery. And it's like 1983, but in the intro, when he's like walking and they got him in the gun sights, it's like that, and then he turns around and shoots and stuff. Like, they must have been using the same like sequence that they filmed like in the 70s, because that didn't look like an 80s tuxedo. It looked like there was a huge flare on those pants. You know, like those are bell bottoms that he's walking.
But I always feel like whatever, it's 80s, but he has like the bell bottoms. Like his suit's still like 70s.
Well, and I mean,
we love it. Oh god,
he is like very much starting to show his age in this one. Like, for sure. Like, the skin's getting loose. And
you know what? You know how they said that they're like, this Bond, he's got to get put out to pasture and stuff? He looks 56 in this.
Yeah, I always think of him as being like, because Sean Connery was James Bond first, I always think of him as being like so much younger than Sean Connery, but they're contemporaries.
Yeah.
They're not like, Sean Connery's still older, right?
I think so.
But if he is, it's not by much.
I thought he's 50s, they're like, I'm like, Roger Moore is 56 in Octopussy. He's probably like 76.
But in A View to a Kill, that was the one where they were like, okay, like, we need a new Bond.
Yeah.
It's not coming across. And again, like, probably like if you watch this like on TV or whatever, it would be fun. But like, I was watching it projected, so I was seeing every little thing. And then he like goes into the office. And then he's like, Moneypenny, you look better every year or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's like a young Money. Oh, it was like, oh, I guess they recast Moneypenny. And then she's like, I'm over here, James. And then he turns around and it's like, okay, that's her assistant. And then it's the same Moneypenny. But
this movie is, they always rank this like, they're like, this sucks at the bottom of the, I fucking love Roger Moore.
That's interesting. Roger Moore is my James Bond.
I love Roger Moore.
Like, when
hilarious and like camp, but like action and fun. Like, I can't get enough of this movie. There's so many jokes.
Yes.
And also, we'll get to it. Spielberg, Indiana Jones is pilfering so much. And even Dial of Destiny, the chase with those little cars, we're gonna still pilfering from Octopussy.
So much to talk about with this one, for sure. Like I didn't know like where it ranked. I know like some of the later Roger Moore ones are not highly regarded, but again, it's like, when I was a kid, Roger Moore was James Bond to me. Like, the James Bonds that I knew were Roger Moore. And it's like, I was just, practically a baby, but I saw Moonraker in the theater. My dad took me to see Moonraker in the theater. That was the James Bond I knew. And then if there was like a James Bond movie on TV, it would usually be a Roger Moore, because those were those were the more recent ones. But I keep hearing and my dad would say it, and you'd like read it in magazines and stuff, that like, oh, Roger Moore sucks. He's a goofball. Sean Connery's the good James Bond, Sean Connery, and so I was kind of like, oh, I guess. And then when I finally saw some Sean Connery, I'm like, yeah, I don't really like this as much, but I guess, everybody says like he's the better, so let me stick with it. And eventually, like,
I like all the Bonds.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually I came around to Sean Connery, it's like, oh yeah, he's great, he's awesome, but it wasn't, like, Roger Moore is still like my default Bond. And it's like, and it was kind of, because like James Bond, you think, oh, he's like this suave British guy and stuff, and like, that's very much Roger Moore. But then when I would watch the Sean Connery ones, I'd be like, he talks weird, like James Bond's supposed to talk like this. Why is he talking like this? And you know what I mean? Like Sean Connery, like if you grew up with Sean Connery, then Roger Moore might seem it. But if you grew up with Roger Moore, Sean Connery is like, who's this guy?
The first Bonds I saw was on Fox 53, and it was Timothy Dalton.
Okay, the Dalton ones.
The two Dalton ones were on, and then I would see the Roger Moore ones a lot. But then the first Bond that in the theater was GoldenEye.
GoldenEye was the first one you saw.
In the theater, but also I think like TBS would always have the marathons when I was in middle school, and I was able to like watch through them all, because they would have like the Sean Connery ones on there, and they would just have like, I think it was TBS or TNT, with like marathon.
That's around the time when I started seeing the Sean Connery ones, and I saw like From Russia with Love and stuff, and then like I saw Goldfinger, and then it was like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about. Yeah, when they talk about how great Sean Connery was. That one, Roger Moore's my James Bond, and you know what? I'm all about this one too.
This one fucking rules, Tom.
It might, and again, it might be the best Bond.
It is the best Bond. It's my favorite Bond movie. I think it's my fucking favorite.
And people say like, oh, it's too jokey, but like maybe it seemed jokey back then, but like this is how action movies are now. Yeah, they have like a lot of good and okay.
Fill her up.
Yeah, fill her up.
There's a million things I can't get.
The jokes are perfect. The stunts, the gags, everything. The opening scene is great.
It's fantastic.
And when she's like, you know, good luck, and she puts his fake mustache on, I'm like, I've never seen that in a movie before. That's so amazing. So what a great idea. She puts on your fake mustache
for you.
Has a great good luck.
So many jokes too. Like it kills me with that horse's ass that folds up.
That's a great joke.
And I would kill for that brown, thick Range Rover, like with the big wheels they're driving around.
And then also, like, okay, he's in disguise as this guy. And then
stuntman.
Right, yeah, like his stunt, it's his stand-in. But yeah, he turns around and then they're both facing each other like a mirror. And it's like, what a great idea. You're in disguise, and then the real guy shows up and you're looking at it, and it's like, oh yeah,
you do a good pick for this guy.
Yeah, so great. And then that like little mini plane.
Oh my god!
And then the thing of like where like those guys are holding him hostage on that truck. Yeah. And then his girlfriend pulls up, kind of like National Lampoon's Vacation. Yeah, she pulls up. And then when they're like checking her out, he like pulls the ripcords on their parachutes and they go flying away.
And then the car, like they're looking at her, and then he pulls up a little further, and he's in the car with the machine gun.
Now you know what? Here's a little thing. Like when he pulls up with the machine gun, I thought he was gonna because that guy's like looking at her, and he's got this big.
I thought the exact same thing.
Because Sean Connery would.
Daniel Craig would.
Daniel
Dalton
Craig would. Yeah, all the other Bonds. But
he does a G.I. Joe move.
Yeah, not Roger Moore. That was the wrong tone for a Roger Moore.
We love Roger. Yeah. And like we were talking about On Her Majesty's Secret Service as being like the first one.
Yeah.
This is like, I think this is the quintessential Total Recall Bond.
Yes.
Because like that stunt,
too perfect.
That stunt with the plane, I would see that on like stunt compilations.
Yeah.
Like where they would fly that little mini jet, and when I would play like G.I. Joe or like I would think about like I love mini like experimental aircrafts. Unless you're John Denver,
yeah,
you want to avoid
that is a John Denver plane.
They're like, we have footage of John Denver's final weapons. It's Octopussy. He goes sideways through the hangar.
Now, also like.
Great opening song.
The opening song, like I'm picturing, it's called like
Flying
High or whatever. But I'm watching it, waiting for her to be like Octopussy. It's like okay, it's because sometimes they work the title into the song, and sometimes they don't. And this was a good call.
When she has that like tattoo, he's like, what's that? She's like, that's my Octopussy. He spikes the camera, and I was like, I fucking love this movie.
It's so great, and because his eyes like bug out when she says that, but it's like. It's a real subtle move. Like
he's not. Kills me.
Yeah, he's not like overdoing it. It is a very subtle like of his eyes, but it's like he's got those like Roger Moore eyes.
Peepers.
Yeah, and so it perfect, so perfect. And then this
scene with the clown,
because it's also like you're not sure that that's not. James
Roger
Bond.
Moore.
Yeah, and then later on he is in that clown suit, and then he's being chased by Roberto Benigni. Who turns out to have like a twin Roberto Benigni.
He's up on like he stands up on the seats of the Oscars and throws a knife.
It's so perfect. It just keeps going and going, and it's just so good. And then like they stab it's like, oh, is this clown going to come out of it or not? And then you think, oh, he's going to make it, and then he gets stabbed, and then you're like, oh, they're going to find his body. And so instead of it being like him telling them the message or whatever, it's like, oh, they're gonna have to find it out from like looking at his body. But then he shows up at the embassy. And then it's like the creepiest thing you could see outside your window, a clown banging on the window that crashes through. And then he's got the Fabergé egg. Yeah. So brilliant.
This is like my favorite fucking Bond.
And this is scary when they got the knives. Yeah, it's just so good. It like one thing after another, and you know.
I always like want to put it on, like have it in the background.
Now, the thing you're saying about Indiana Jones, because this is like a year before Temple of Doom. So you get a scene of like a guy getting devoured by a crocodile.
Yes. They're at the palace.
Yeah.
The beats, like the dinner scene.
The dinner scene.
And what unfolds the dinner scene. And then they go back to separate rooms.
Right.
And even the set dressing, like, I'm like, this is like somebody's been watching.
Lucas and Spielberg wanted to make a James Bond. They were refused, so they made Raiders of the Lost Ark, 100 times better than the best James Bond. And then for the sequel, they probably were at the theater, watched this, and started taking notes. They're like, okay, we're going to make a way better scene of a guy getting devoured by a crocodile. We're going to make a way better scene of like a palace where there's like a meal that's being served.
Last Crusade, there's a circus train fight.
We see they're just taking those. It's like, okay, if we're doing James Bond, what's James Bond doing? And we'll just do it 10 times better. And
in Dial of Destiny, we're gonna see something else building from this movie. They have like the chase in those little
those little cabs. These little cabs,
And we see that in the new one.
Yeah.
They're still mining this movie.
Right.
For stuff. This is so
funny. No, but it is great. And it is so funny that it's like, this is considered one of the stinkers of James Bond. Where I would, put this up there. Like
I put it in my top 5 James Bond.
It was like quintessential to me. It's like, they've like nailed like every James Bond, everything you're looking for from a James Bond movie. This has like one after the other. And of course, like every James Bond movie, eventually it hits a patch where it gets a little bit boring or whatever. But it's like this one kind of it takes a while to get boring, and it doesn't stay boring very long. And then those guys show up, like the guy with the buzzsaw. Like all of a sudden,
my God.
He's got the buzzsaw yo-yo, and all of a sudden it starts turning into a Brian De Palma movie.
Yes, and like I thought I achieved like people like go to like done like a vision quest to achieve nirvana and stuff. Like I found it when I reached nirvana when he's in the crocodile.
Yes.
And the crocodile lets up.
You're right. That is so great. Because it is like, it's like the gadgets in this room. And like, how do we top the gadgets? And the idea of like, he's riding around in this fake crocodile. And then the crocodile head opens up and there's Roger Moore.
And the sound effect when it's like, it's like, I was like, Jesus Christ.
As suave as ever. And then Octopussy. And then he meets Octopussy, and she's in this island, in this castle, and like they're wearing like these greatest American hero costumes.
It's so cool. And then like his buddy VJ, the actor is actually a tennis pro.
Oh, okay.
And they incorporated because he's hit like a tennis racket. That's why he
hits the guy with the tennis racket. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And,
okay.
But it's amazing.
It's 009. I love when they refer to the other 00s. Also 009.
He gets serious too when he kills that guy. He's like, that's for 009.
Yes. Yeah. Because that was some cold-blooded stuff.
When VJ like alerts him, he's got like that cobra. I like how he plays the James Bond theme song. Yeah. So that exists in the James Bond universe.
You know what? It's also like, it's like when they play the Rocky theme in Rocky 3, you know, like it was a really nice touch. And again, it was like,
catchy tune.
This is a James Bond movie that knows it's a James Bond movie and loves it. You know,
it'd be like in Rocky 3 when they play the Rocky theme. He's like, "Hey, catchy theme. I like that. That's great."
Now
I wrote it.
Also, like the stunts. There's like the one guy who takes the dice and grinds them into powder. That guy. I thought for sure James Bond was going to have one of those like fights like Raiders of the Lost Ark where with like the guy outside of the plane where it's just like punching him in the face and it's not doing anything. But like we never really get that. Like when he defeats him, it is a cool stunt. Like they're on a plane. Like it's real guys actually doing it. And then he like pulls the thing and
whacks him in the face.
Yeah.
And he's like,
That was pretty cool. But I thought there was going to be more of a knockdown drag out. But by that point, we'd already gotten more than our money's worth out of this movie.
Louis Jordan, Arcane is the bad guy in there.
Yeah, okay. So the bad guy in this, he looked super familiar. Is he from Total Recall? Was he like the bad guy in Total Recall?
That's Michael Ironside. He looks very...
Yeah, because I'm like, I know who this guy, and he's got this like badass coat over and stuff.
Yeah.
And so when they're at the at the auction, I'm like, oh, that's Robert Wagner. That's Robert Wagner. And I'm like, no, it's not. I know who that guy is. And I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Total Recall. He's just like lost a bunch of hair. And stuff. But you're saying it's not him.
No, it's Louis Jordan. He played Arcane in the Swamp Thing movies.
Okay, yeah, because he looked so familiar, and I just couldn't place him.
Yeah, like
he's great in this too.
He's awesome. Yeah. Like I love him. And then this guy here is the bad guy from Beverly Hills Cop.
The sort of Russian general. And I like the whole fake Fabergé egg. And the jokes are great too, where he's like, oh, 007, be sure to sign a release on that because
it's government property.
Yeah, so great, just great. Like this, like there is must see James Bond movies. And
this is a must
one of them.
Must watch.
I don't know if this is my absolute number one James Bond, but this is top five.
Top five James Bond for sure. And like I just like to throw it on, like just have it play, and like I love it. Yeah. But I was looking at like these rankings, they're like ranking the Roger Moore Bonds, and it's either middle or bottom of the Roger Moore.
I think it's context. And I think when this came out in the 80s, like the James Bond series was probably looking pretty creaky. It was probably looking a little out of date. For a lot of reasons in like the early 80s. Like now that we have some distance and you can kind of just look at it with its own merits and not think about like, oh, well, what else is coming out at the same time and this and that. Like you can just watch it and like really see, it's got so much to offer.
Yeah, but there's like those what a great bag of the twins, the alligator when he like swims up in it. I was like,
because and it's like as a Kirby fan, like Jack Kirby was doing his like mid to late 60s Marvel comics around the same time as like Bond Mania was going crazy. And so he's doing Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's doing Captain America stories. So he's working in all these, but like he's like, ooh, how do I up the stakes? How do I come up with like cooler Bond gimmicks and stuff? And he would always come up with these cool like little mini subs and stuff.
Oh, I love mini subs.
One man mini sub for like Captain America or something. And like that alligator one, it's like, like Jack Kirby would love that. He lived, he was alive at this point, so maybe he saw this one and was like, gave the big thumbs up.
He's watching in the theater. Octopussy and its sequel, Octopeepee.
You take his hair away and he looks exactly like the guy.
Michael Ironside. Yeah. He's like, see you at the party, Richter. And throws his arms.
Yeah, his arms. Yeah, like I thought for sure this was the guy who got his arms ripped off.
He's like earlier. He's like, see you at the party, Quaid. He's like, screw you, Benny.
Those Roger Moore baby blues, like when she says, "That's my Octopussy," and his eyes
he's like, what?
So great.
Yeah, there's the check. He's like, I prefer cash. And he's like,
that's so great. That chase with the cab is amazing.
It's so awesome.
The fight. The guy, and like you said, he hits the guy with the tennis racket, and then he gets stabbed, and it gets caught in like the wad of cash, and he's like throwing money at them and saying, "Easy come, easy go."
We're gonna see that in Dial of Destiny, that cab chase.
When we were watching watching Octopussy for this, I was like, you know what? I don't think I ever saw this one. Because I like all the things that I thought were going to happen in this were like other James Bond movies, and I'm like, maybe I never saw Octopussy.
And then the other James Bond, I think it was it Live and Let Die? I can't remember, but they, once again, Spielberg and Lucas watched them in the theater taking notes. They pilfered like the Venice scene for Last Crusade, where he's driving that like gondola.
The Venice scene is Moonraker.
That's what it was.
Moonraker is the Venice scene. I love that Venice scene too. No, but you're right. They are like, okay, we're making our own James Bond.
Let's literally pull
We're all out of ideas. We used every idea we had in Raiders. So what are we going to put in this next one? So it's like
they do a Venice chase.
Yeah.
He's in. I love when that gondola becomes like a hovercraft. And then there's a pigeon that like looks at it like a couple times.
Right, the pigeon double take. They talked about that. Yeah, and he has this. The guy's this like musket and stuff.
Yeah, they're like, we need another. The George Lucas is like, we got to dip into the Bond.
I also.
This is fucking awesome.
Like the best one-liner in this James Bond doesn't get to deliver. It's his partner, VJ.
What does he say? I can't remember.
Because James Bond is like, we've got company. And he's like, good thing this is a company car. And then it does like a wheelie. Because it's what you realize is that this cab is like the James Bond. Yeah. Oh, it also has the glaive in this.
My God.
This came out the same year as Krull. And like the guy attacks James Bond with a glaive.
God, that's the fucking glaive. The glaive, I think it got top. It was like top billing. It has its own trailer. They're like,
yeah, that's James Bond, Octopussy. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I Am Stan. And you can pre-order both of those books by following the pre-order links in the show notes below.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
Please click like and subscribe to the Total Recall Show. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli, on Instagram at Tom_Scioli. And please support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search Tom Scioli.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show. And you can listen to and download my album Escape Velocity in the show notes below.